Hey out there. So I don't do video posts very often unless I'm reading a poem, and I'll probably be doing more of those because I have time and work to read. But I've been focusing on fiction a little bit lately because again I have time and I'm going back and revising work and stuff, and hopefully those will see daylight because I'm going to start submitting work again. I generally publish myself. Nothing against the wonderful small press editors out there and the various journals and things. I just find the whole process tedious. I just do, and there's nothing to be done by it. You can't do anything about it, and I understand that. And editorial tastes are what they are, and I don't take that personally either. I've been an editor and a publisher, and I understand these things take time and it takes money and effort, and it's always a labor of love, as they say. Um, and it takes commitment, and I respect that. It's part of the reasons I ran a small press for 3.5 years. Um, but I've sort of abstained from that process for a variety of reasons. But I don't put a lot of my fiction out, and I haven't really had time in the last couple of years to really focus on fiction because it's a different process for me than poetry. Like poetry is sort of like this snippet in time for me, and I learned to do that around my work schedules, which have been peripatetic and a little bit crazy. Uh, but fiction is kind of a not a deep dive, but a medium dive for me. Like I have to be uh, someplace where I can write and think, and it takes longer. It takes longer. It's a much longer process for me, and I people who do that exclusively, I have massive respect for. But see, here's the thing, like so I'm going through and I'm looking at different ways to submit fiction, and there are contests. And if you run a contest, God love you. I'm not going to submit because reading fees are ridiculous when you're a writer that has no money to spare. Uh, and I understand, it takes time, money, whatever, but reading fees. Contest fees, I kind of feel the same way about contest fees. I do on occasion submit to contests that have fees, but I am skeptical of all of them. Uh, I updated my submittable profile. Um, Nothing will depress you as a writer than going back over your past submissions. Uh, that they go back for me like to the early days of submittable. That's depressing. It's a good thing I don't take it personally. Um, but I was looking at one publication, and I won't name the publication. Thinking about whether or not I was going to submit one of my stories once I get done editing and revising them to this publication. And in their submission uh, requirements, they have all the standard boilerplate stuff, and they don't want any of the isms, and I respect that. I'm not about the isms. I'm not homophobic, transphobic, racist, sexist, like any of that. Like I'm fine with that, but there was one, no violence. It, yes, 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 yes. It's fiction. Yes, 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 and I understand that people, we live in a violent world, and sometimes people want something other than violence in their reading. I understand that, but I think it's really hard to write something honest in this world, even if it is fiction, without addressing violence on some level, because the world is violent and life is violent, and if we're not writing about violence in some capacity, what are we doing? Are we just going to ignore it away? I mean, there is a difference between like glorifying it and being honest about it. Just wondering, like, what are we doing if we're not? And again, like, editors and publishers are perfectly within their rights to publish whatever they want. Whatever they want. This is not a criticism. Well, it is a criticism, but it's also a question. Like, how do you feel about violence in your fiction? Violence in your writing? Do you write about violence? And is there a reason to avoid it? Anyway. No one ever responds to these things, so I will be real surprised if I get any feedback. But I'm just sort of thinking out loud, and is there a line between glorifying violence and writing about violence as a fact or as an occurrence? Sit with that for a minute. Get back to me. I'm going to drink some coffee and maybe go for a walk.